What's up, everyone? DKRACK here. And welcome to YouTube's Darkest Channels, Part 4 by Nick Crowley Reaction. I just learned that Nick Crowley dropped a brand new video, YouTube's Darkest Channels Part 4. I'm super excited to watch this video, react to it. Nick Crowley has some great videos, so I'll have a link to the original video down below. So make sure and go check out Nick Crowley. But guys, some of these videos by Nick Crowley can get pretty disturbing. So sit back, buckle up, and let's get into this video. It's 38 minutes long, so it's a longer video. But let's go. YouTube's Darkest Channels, Part 4. Let's get into the video, guys.
January 3rd, 2021. Installment number 3 of YouTube's Darkest Channels is released.
I legit am scared.
I remember watching that one.
Multiple disturbing accounts.
I reacted to Part 3 on a live stream. Very disturbing. Very messed up.
With one in particular being Leather Smoke Me, an account run by a man who, along with his fans, fetishized his own deterioration and subsequent death due to smoking.
Ain't karma a bitch? Sorry, but...
Before this video aired, I would briefly explore the entirety of this smoking fetish community, discovering a countless number of these channels participating in it, with one of which being run by a 19-year-old high school student named Potney, by far the youngest person I had ever seen taking part in this.
I'm sorry, but what's going on here? Like, what? I know a lot of people smoke cigarettes, but they're saying that these people in this community are like, they're pretty much obsessed with smoking as much as they possibly can until they die. Is that what I'm getting from these videos? Like, I don't understand why somebody would want to do that. It's just weird. Sorry, there was my little rant.
I would only watch one of his videos in passing, using that along with many others as evidence that this trend did in fact exist. However, at the time, I could have never known how twisted that obscure channel truly was, and how much darker it would get, as just a few months later, Dylan's life would take a disturbing turn, and one that would forever immortalize his channel as one of YouTube's darkest.
Before we get too far into this,
I want to thank today's sponsor.
All right, guys, go watch the original video. Looks like Nick Crowley is doing a sponsorship, so good for him, but I don't want to watch the whole sponsorship. I'm sorry, but...
Addicted to Dying Slower. This was the caption for Potney's first video on Instagram, as he's shown taking a long drag of his cigarette. And looking back, it was this account that provides the context needed to understand Dylan, as well as his YouTube channels.
This is disturbing.
Videos like this were the basis of his content, and those watching absolutely loved it. Commenters would say things like, "Looking good, man. You're so sexy, addicted your face is cute," and "Very hot smoker."
Oh.
Smoker fetish? He would never respond to that final question,
effer?
though the answer wasn't hard to find. Dylan would post these videos shirtless, while acknowledging and thanking the fans who were leaving sexual comments, even mentioning a potential start of an OnlyFans account. He knew what he was doing, and his account was a fetish page through and through, but not in the way that you would typically expect.
I'm just making
Dylan
a cringe face, I'm
smoking,
sorry.
But more specifically, the dark side effects that came with it, as he would hashtag things like cancer and lung, as well as even stating outright that he thought cancer was good. And he was being serious too, as he'd even take pictures of...
I'm sorry, but ask anybody who has cancer or anybody who has ever had cancer and beat it. I don't think they would say cancer is good. Just saying.
Of the warning labels on cigarette packages, which featured photos of withering and dying individuals, as they were designed to scare people away. But rather than deterring him, Dylan would openly say how much he loved the sight of them, as it showed what could happen to him someday.
I'm sorry, but look at this joke right here. This is just such a joke to me. Look at
Cigarette
this.
packages, which
Look at
featured
this.
photos of withering and dying individuals, as they were designed to scare people away.
Here, we're
But
getting
rather
to
than
it.
deterring him, Dylan would openly say how much
So look at this dude right here. He's wearing a mask. Apparently he's scared of, I don't want to say the word because YouTube doesn't like it, but apparently Dylan is scared of C-19, the virus, but he wants to get cancer and die from pretty much smoking too much cigarettes. But you don't want to catch the virus, right? He's wearing a mask. How much sense does that make? Zero.
he loved the sight of them, as it showed what could happen to him someday, an idea that Dylan absolutely loved. Dylan Potney wanted to get cancer and die before his audience's eyes, much like Leather Smoked Me had done years before, along with many others across the web, with his Instagram providing all the context we need. Context that would make his YouTube channels all the more concerning.
This is disturbing, my
Dylan
God.
had 3 channels,
Jeez.
one of which going under the same name as his Instagram, along with another called Jericho Chris, the same account that I had found way back when researching in December. And both accounts consisted mainly of his smoking videos. And quickly, Dylan would start to amass a few hundred views per video, as viewers were watching eagerly to see the young man begin to wither. It's a concept that's dark enough, especially considering his age.
So
As mentioned,
bizarre,
Dylan
weird.
had 3 total channels, with his third proving to be the darkest. The channel would go by the name of Juniper Crossing, and again feature more smoking clips. Only, unlike his other pages, these clips didn't make up the majority of his content. In fact, the channel itself was dedicated to a whole other rabbit hole here on YouTube. And it's one that we've been down before.
See what I'm talking about? That is true power and true free will. Basically, we're all trapped on an iron grid. Our cells are literally keeping us trapped on planet Earth.
What is wrong with this kid, Dylan? Oh my, is that blood? What the hell is that? Oh, this dude is crazy. I'm sorry, but this dude is crazy.
You need to get to the center of the flat Earth before you're dead, or you will expire of your own stupidity.
Blood Over Intent, Proof of Life, Quasi-Luminous. This was the title of Dylan's second upload to the Juniper Crossing channel that would go live back in
What
December
is
of
this
2021.
weird
clearly
shit?
in reference to what has now become one of the largest and most intriguing rabbit holes on all of YouTube. We explored the mystery way back in the day, the Cult of Saturn. It's a group that believes an apocalyptic event is imminent, and the only way to survive is to put your name in Satan's Book of Life, a book reserved for the first
Oh
100.
hell no! You bring up Satan, my ass is out. You know, I'll stick with God, not Satan. Just saying.
44,000 people who partake in a ritual known as Blood Over Intent. For the ritual, you write your
Freaking
intentions down
weirdos.
on a sheet of paper and then spill your blood over it, which supposedly manifests your intentions, as well as puts your name in the Book of Life, essentially securing your salvation. But in order for it to fully work, you must record the ritual and post it here on YouTube. It's one of the first big rabbit holes that we explored on the channel, and it was uncovered that the man behind the whole movement is named Mark Braun, or as he goes by on YouTube, Quasi-Luminous, which Dylan references in the title of his video. Mark believes that he is Satan himself.
Sorry, but this right here is a deep, very deep rabbit hole of weirdness and disturbing quasi-luminous whatever crap.
And the followers of this movement believe the same, despite the fact that in reality he's just a genuinely disturbed guy. Now, fellow YouTuber Blame It On
He
Jorge
needs Jesus.
has, in my opinion, the best breakdown of this mystery, so I recommend watching his video on it for further details. But all in all, it's an incredibly twisted community. Something that became even more apparent to me, as every now and then I still receive bizarre threats from certain members of the group, despite having posted that video over a year ago.
If you believe in any of this crap, I'm sorry, you're crazy. I'm sorry.
Nicholas, you were in the pocket of fog, have you seen it? Nicholas?
This dude literally just recorded himself with this weird metal filter and then reversed the audio trying to be all creepy. Good job, bro. You put on a creepy filter and you reversed the audio. Really scary, man.
You were in the pocket of fog, have you seen it? Nicholas,
But out of all the videos that I've seen associated with this group, Dylan's truly stand out. Most people who take part in this will simply prick their finger with a pushpin in order to spill their blood, but Dylan's approach is a little different and much more violent. Rather than gently jabbing himself with a pushpin, Dylan instead slams it into his finger over and over again, in most cases pushing the pin clear through his thumb.
Oh my god, dude, no!
Even though I can't fully show you an example of this, you can understand the force he's using just by listening.
Ouch! Dude, what the frick?
There's a real darkness to this Juniper Crossing channel, as it's essentially the combination of two YouTube mysteries we've covered in the past, both of which being incredibly concerning in their own right. I mean, this is a channel run by a kid who wants to get cancer and die, while at the same time immersing himself into one of YouTube's darkest cults. And what's also obvious when watching these videos is there's a real anger to Dylan, which is fully on display when he jams the pin through his finger, as well as on his Instagram page. We can see that his bedroom walls are filled with holes, likely as a result of Dylan punching them. He was clearly dealing with some very serious issues in regards to his mental health.
Yeah, this
unfortunately,
dude...
things would only escalate from this point on.
This dude needs help.
Here, he'd begin to fall down into a conspiracy rabbit hole, posting about the Earth being flat, stating that humans are being farmed, and that our world is just one big prison. Theories that he would begin to push more and more on his channel as time went on, further showcasing what appeared to be the deterioration of Dylan's mind. And posts that would all lead us to his final upload, a video that will forever prove to be the darkest he'd ever make.
Did Dylan die?
On the morning of March 15th, 2021, Dylan would post a video titled "Smoking in a Car Full Vid." It would feature no further description. The clip shows as Dylan jokes around with his father on their way to Dylan's school as he enjoys his early morning cigarette, which in his words was the best way to start the day. He then asks his dad if they could visit his nana after school, and the two would start to plan out their day.
Are we going to Nana's place after? Are we supposed to? Maybe. You want to go there for a visit? Yeah.
Dylan then finishes his cigarette before shutting off the camera. He would never post again.
What?
Not just on his YouTube account, but on his Instagram as well.
What happened to Dylan?
No social media belonging to Dylan would ever be updated from this moment on. The video would go live as soon as Dylan would get dropped off at school, and from there he would start his day as usual. That morning he would sit in his classroom at Christ the King High School, the same way he would do any other school day.
This kid went to Christ the King High School? That's just kind of ironic. He's doing all this weird blood stuff, making these weird smoking videos, but he goes to Christ the King, I assume is a Christian, like, religious high school. That's interesting.
Only today was different. For reasons unknown, at roughly 9:30 a.m., Dylan would stand up from his chair before pulling a knife out of his backpack, right in the middle of class.
What?
He would then proceed to turn to the girl sitting next to him.
No.
Before anyone could realize what was happening, Dylan would stab 17-year-old Jennifer Winkler and quickly leave the classroom and the school itself.
What?
It happened too quickly to react, and in an instant, Jennifer would be fatally injured, later passing away in the hospital before her father could say goodbye. Dylan would attempt to run, but would only make it to a nearby neighborhood before being caught and arrested for murder. Just barely a few hours
That's
ago,
crazy.
Dylan was sitting with his dad planning out his day, and there was no sort of indication in this final video that just moments later he would take a life in cold blood. And even more shocking of all, according to the victim's father, there was seemingly no bad blood between the two. As a matter of fact, they were at one point neighbors, though they never really hung out or
That's
talked.
insane.
The attack was completely unprovoked and seemingly without reason.
Just random.
According to Dylan's own dad, he was a troubled kid who struggled daily with mental health issues. But in his own words, he said he believed that Dylan was making strides and starting to get better.
Well,
But
I
his
guess
YouTube
you were
channel
wrong.
paints a different story. It showed a young man who had seemingly no will to live, a man that wanted to die, and a young man who was clearly dealing with intense and very concerning anger issues, all leading to him cutting short a life for seemingly no reason at all. And just based off of the way that Jennifer's dad describes her, well, it seems like our world lost an amazing person that day.
She was bright, smart, creative. She was just Jenny. I'm gonna miss her, and
A few days following.
Man, you know, rest in peace to that poor girl, Jennifer. There was no reason that she should have died from crazy Dylan. Wow, that's actually really sad. It's really sad.
Following the murder, I would receive an email from one of my viewers letting me know what had happened, which in part revealed the true scope of Dylan's channels and just how quickly things had turned for the worst from that fateful day that I had viewed his video. But most disturbingly of all, at that point, there were still people leaving comments from the Blood Over Intent group, literally saying that they praised Dylan, despite the fact that he was a known murderer at this point, something that if you were in his comment sections, you couldn't miss. The Juniper Crossing channel stands today as a dark look into the mind of a truly disturbed individual, someone who dedicated his life to a satanic cult, someone who wanted the world to see him slowly die on his channel, and someone who would mercilessly kill not even 2 hours after posting his final video. And unfortunately, the signs were there all along. But this isn't always the norm. In fact, typically just the opposite rings true, as people will hide behind their YouTube personalities, leaving behind no indication of the true evil that they possess. And in the case of Cadence Pinder, this rings especially true. It was a channel that began back in 2014, though remnants of that time have long since been removed, as both Cadence and her channel would go through a massive change in 2017. That year, Cadence would transition genders from male to female, having undergone surgery and procedures to become the person that she always felt she was. It was an isolating time for her, and rather than going through the struggles alone, she would instead decide to dedicate her channel to this journey. With that, the page was completely wiped, and Cadence would start from scratch, bringing her viewers into her life and her experiences as a transgender woman. A move that would immediately pay off. Her channel began to grow, amassing a few thousand subscribers, and her videos would gain hundreds of thousands of views in just 1 year of posting. And following this trajectory, her numbers were poised to continue growing. But this change in content wasn't just paying off in terms of numbers. Over that time, her comment sections would be filled with positive messages from people who had been genuinely helped by Cadence, as they too were transitioning and dealing with similar struggles of their own. Cadence's content was quite literally making people feel less lonely at a time in their lives that can be notoriously isolating. And though her following was far from huge, the impact that she was making on the world and in the lives of her viewers certainly was. And one could imagine that a few more successful years of posting, and who knows, maybe Cadence could have truly made a living off of YouTube. This is just something that we'll never know, as instead,
what the hell happened?
At the beginning of 2018, her posting would slow to a halt, leaving the channel to go dormant to this day. Now, typically throughout the series, when a channel abruptly stops posting, it's normally a sign that something tragic had happened. But in this case, the circumstances were a bit different, as Cadence would actually continue updating her other social media profiles, even after abandoning the channel. There, she would post about how burnt out she had become and the lack of motivation that she possessed for making videos. And it seems she would never get this motivation back, as despite the hot start, the channel was still a long ways away from paying her bills. And being in her mid-20s at the time, she needed to find a reliable income elsewhere. And it was around this time that she would receive the perfect offer.
Oh no.
At the time, Cadence was dating her longtime boyfriend, Marcus Strabel, whose mother owned a daycare service that she ran from home.
Please don't tell me this dude kills her or something. Oh gosh.
And looking to expand, his mother would offer the couple a job in which they could operate their own daycare service right from their home. For the couple, the opportunity was a no-brainer, as they both loved kids, and the job would allow them to work even without leaving their home. And by 2018, Cadence would leave YouTube behind to pursue this new venture full-time. A move that at first proved to be the right decision, as she enjoyed her career and could now financially sustain herself. But very quickly, things would take a turn for the worst. Not long into the daycare's operation, the Division of Child and Family Services would quietly launch an investigation into the daycare, and more specifically, into Cadence Pinder. The exact details of this event are still...
Don't tell me Cadence assaulted or did something to a frickin' child in the daycare. Oh god, that is going to be very disturbing. If that's where the story's going. I have a bad feeling.
To this day unknown, but we do know why they were alerted in the first place, with the reason being that Cadence had been accused of performing a hands-on sexual offense to a child.
God.
Something that supposedly happened when she was watching the children within her own home.
You sick
It's a horrifying
fuck.
statement to read, but ultimately it proved to be short-lived, as the case was quickly dropped, essentially declaring Cadence as innocent, allowing her to continue her job as an at-home daycare worker. And subsequently, the information within the case would never be released, not even to the parents who were trusting this service. But either way, Cadence was technically found innocent, so perhaps it's unnecessary to even mention this. Well, maybe it would be, if not for the fact that during the same time, something else very dark was brewing behind the scenes.
Oh no.
On December 2nd of 2019, the FBI would receive a tip that would come right from Google, who would notify them of suspicious activity coming from the account of Cadence Pinder. And it wouldn't stop there, as just a week later, the FBI would yet again be notified, this time of even more suspicious activity that Google had noticed from that same account, with both alerts claiming that Cadence may have uploaded suspicious content to her account, with the content in question being CP. These tips would lead to the FBI opening an official investigation into Cadence.
We all know what CP is. I'm not going to say it, but no.
Along with her boyfriend, as the two would share the account, though for a while nothing would come of it. In fact, it wouldn't be until November of 2020, nearly a full year later, that the FBI would visit the household of Cadence and Marcus. Once there, Cadence would claim that she had in fact seen CP just once or twice while scrolling around Tumblr, but that she had never actually downloaded anything, instead quickly clicking off in disgust. Marcus himself would echo a similar statement as well, claiming that if
that's sick stuff is on Tumblr? What the hell is even Tumblr? I've never used that before.
anything was downloaded, then it must have been an accident. And certainly nothing had been uploaded, even offering up his phone along with Cadence, so that the FBI could confirm that there was nothing on their devices. However, their compliance didn't last long. Unsurprisingly, the FBI would accept their offer to search their phones, something that would immediately cause the couple to backtrack, as they refused to hand anything over before asking the officers to leave their home.
Why would you say, here, look at my phone, and then say, oh no, you can't now?
And that alone told authorities all they needed to know, that both Cadence and Marcus had something worth hiding on their phones. But even this forethought couldn't prepare them for what they would find.
Don't tell me that frickin' Cadence recorded a child at the daycare or something. Yo, oh God, this is messed up.
After obtaining a warrant to search the phones of the couple, it would be revealed that the alert had in fact been correct, and Cadence's phone did hold multiple photos containing CP. But somehow, it was even worse than you would imagine. Along
What?
with the straight-up CP was photographs depicting real-life physical abuse in some of the worst ways imaginable, all of which being done to children, and all of which found on the phone of a daycare worker.
Wow.
Having been caught red-handed, Cadence would state that it must have been a mistake, further claiming that she must have accidentally downloaded them from Tumblr, or it was Marcus who had done this
That's
all,
not a mistake.
though his story was much different. His phone also contained photographs depicting similar content, which he had admitted to downloading, only not alone. According to him, the couple would download these images together, admitting that they viewed them sexually and stored their favorites on separate accounts for later use. Though he was adamant about one thing, the fact that he had no idea that these kids were underaged. This, however, was a blatant lie. Upon reviewing the images, the FBI would conclude that the photographs could not have been mistaken for adults, as they didn't show teenagers or even preteens for that matter. Instead, the photos were of children as young as 3 years old, the same age as the kids that the two were watching over alone.
Yeah, oh, it's a picture of a 3-year-old child. I didn't know they were underage. You fucking idiot. No one's gonna believe that crap.
Within their home. And though the FBI had only received 2 alerts, the true scope was far worse than just a few photographs. As
Wow,
Cadence
that's
Pinder,
messed up.
the once budding YouTuber, had 125 pictures depicting CP all within her phone, far more than her boyfriend.
She was
Marcus.
probably selling the
Discovery
pictures
has led to
to
Cadence
sickos.
being charged with 15 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, with Marcus being charged with 10 counts of the same. As of now,
Hey, y'all. Those two can get wrecked in prison. That's what they deserve. Good luck in prison. Have fun.
the two are both awaiting sentencing, but having them locked away is a huge relief. Though I'm still left with many questions. That allegation of a sexual act performed on a minor by Cadence way back before she had gotten caught.
It was
makes me
true.
wonder if there was any
It was
truth
true.
to that story.
It had
as
to
she
have been
clearly
true.
was attracted to children, and she worked in close quarters alone with them, which also
See, like, stuff like this is sickening. You know, it's disgusting for anyone if you have kids or, you know, if you don't have kids. But me being a father, having, you know, a 5 and a 6-year-old, 2 boys of my own, it's even more disturbing. If anyone ever did anything to my 2 boys, I'd probably end up in prison for killing them. But that's all I'm going to say about that matter.
makes me wonder if the photos that she possessed were of kids that she was supposed to be watching. As remember, the Google alert was spurred on because Cadence had uploaded a photo, not just downloaded.
Yeah, that the 10 pounds of makeup on your face don't make you look any more attractive. Just saying. Look like a freaking clown with all that makeup.
So maybe that was a picture of one of the children that she was trusted to watch.
Wow.
But this is something that to this day hasn't been confirmed, and as of now it's believed that at the very least, the majority of pictures that she had on her device were pulled right from Tumblr, which makes one of her final tweets all the more disturbing, as she says, "Wait, you can't upload to Tumblr anymore? I thought that's the only reason people even use Tumblr. Look at me learning something new every day."
What?
Cadence Pinder
God.
was, is, and will always be a disturbed individual. And scary enough, she had found herself in the perfect profession to objectify young children behind closed doors. A job that she was allowed to continue after one allegation, and nearly a year after.
I'm just going to say this. If someone was accused of doing anything to a child, and then they threw the case out and they're like, oh, they're innocent, they're not guilty, I still would not trust that person even if the case was thrown out. I'd be like, if you were even accused of something like that, I'm never going to trust you again. I don't care who they are. That's just me.
Google had told the FBI that she had uploaded CP, and who knows what kind of sick things transpired within her home. But though the job she had found herself in was the perfect storm for a sick individual like Cadence, the profession that she had sought out initially wasn't much better, as she had actively tried for over a year to become a famous YouTuber, something that, had it happened, would have surrounded her with thousands of kids who
She ruined her career like this because she wants to be a frickin' perv sicko.
looked up to her and would do anything for her. I mean, we see it every day. Vile people using their status here to lure in kids. And as crazy as it may seem, I have to wonder if that was a motivating factor for her starting to make content in the first place. But for our next creator, he never tried to hide the fact that he had a much darker career outside of YouTube. In fact, he practically put it on display for the world to see. The channel takes us to the Mexican state of Jalisco, the hometown of an up-and-coming rapper known as QBA. His real name was Christian Omar Palma Gutierrez, but most called him by his stage name, as his YouTube channel would go by QBA Official. And it was on this channel where he would begin to make a name for himself. Starting back in 2015, the young rapper would lean on the site to promote his music.
I'm just gonna guess. I have no idea where this story's going. But Mexico, I'm gonna guess the story's going like this dude, what was it, QBA or whatever the hell his name was. Somehow he was involved in the Mexican cartel. That's what I'm gonna guess. But let's see.
Music and share it across the world, and that's exactly what would happen. At the moment, he has songs across the site with over 10 million views, and on his own channel, he has multiple music videos that have amassed anywhere from 2 to 5 million views apiece. In Mexico, he was a full-blown star, as he'd rap about violence, gang activities, and drugs, something not too uncommon in that era of Mexican hip-hop. Though with these dark lyrics came a problem. YouTube would not monetize QBA's music, meaning that though he was getting millions of views, it said that at his peak, QBA was only making a mere $300 a month, nowhere near enough to bank on full time. Making matters more difficult, the young rapper had recently gotten married and had a child, and with the wage he was making on YouTube, he knew that he would have to take on another job to help his family financially. So in 2018, he would begin a side gig as a car mechanic, working for around $80 to $100 a week. But as QBA struggled to pay his bills, a scandal had broken out in that same area where he lived. In February of 2018, 3 university students had gone out to film a school project, with a group settling on a somewhat remote region of Jalisco, QBA's home state. It was a trip that they would never return from, as they vanished into the night.
Were they kidnapped?
The disappearance was shocking, and especially concerning as the 3 students were last seen being led to a vehicle by armed police officers.
What?
With the big issue being that there were no patrol cars in that area, and no cops either for that matter. Instead, the group had been kidnapped by fake officers and hadn't been seen since entering the vehicle. The case would gain national attention, as many assumed that the 3 had been killed, though no bodies had been discovered. In fact, no bodies would be discovered, or could be for that matter, and oddly enough, this was all thanks to QBA. When the rapper had taken...
Don't tell me QBA puts lyrics in one of his rap songs about the murders and that's how they catch his ass. I wouldn't doubt it. Some rappers are not very smart. Just saying.
Taking up a job as a car mechanic, he would become close to his boss, a man named El Cochi, and seeing that the young man was struggling financially, he would offer him another job, one that would pay $160 a week, far more than he even made on YouTube, with the position being titled as a cook. But it's not the cook that you would normally expect, as instead, El Cochi had worked for the notorious Jalisco New Generation cartel, a gang known as one of Mexico's most dangerous and violent, and the cooks were the low men on the totem pole, being practically relegated to dirty work and cleanup, Immediately after taking up the job, those 3 film students would go out to film on that fateful day, in which they had no idea that they were stepping on this gang's land, right in a location where the cartel was expecting another gang to show up, and thinking the students were with that gang.
Talk about bad luck. Those 3 students had no idea. There was 2 gangs that were going to butt heads pretty much. And these 3 students pretty much got caught in the crossfire of these 2 gangs. Talk about bad luck. Damn.
The Jalisco group would kidnap them, posing as police officers. Upon being kidnapped, the group would begin to torture them one by one as they desperately tried to get info on the gang that the 3 were working for. A gang that none of these students had any connection to, meaning that as they were being tortured for answers, they quite literally had nothing they could say.
That is
There was
so
no
messed
information
up.
they could give, something that caused the violence to get so extreme that one student would ultimately be tortured to death. Realizing their mistake, the gang members would shoot the other 2 in cold blood to remove any possibility of this info getting out. The 3 film students had been murdered, and ultimately for no reason at all. It was at this moment that the gang would call upon QBA, the fresh new cook. He would be tasked with cleaning up the bodies of the 3 students in a way that would assure that they could never be found. So he one by one placed the bodies in large barrels and proceeded to fill them with acid. The acid would break down the chunks of flesh into a soup-like consistency, turning the kids into a substance that was completely unrecognizable to what they once were, before pouring the human soup down a storm drain, being rinsed away and never to be seen
Human
again.
soup. That's appetizing.
Following the completion of the job, QBA would continue rapping and posting his music onto YouTube, with these works being especially dark as he rapped about living life as a gang member. But before long, the channel would go silent, having had no uploads since, with the main reason being that QBA had been arrested. Unfortunately for him, QBA would be blown in for his role in the crime, essentially becoming the fall guy for the event, as he would eventually admit to having dissolved the bodies, as well as doing the same thing to even more victims left behind from at least 3 separate hits. In aiding in the case against him, police would actually use snippets of the songs he'd post to YouTube.
Yep,
as
the lyrics, I knew it.
As he often rapped about the gang activities, as well as specific instances that authorities believe may have actually happened. His persona and his music were no act, and QBA had been rapping from experience.
Yep, I told you.
But QBA's channel isn't only dark because his lyrics allude to the lifestyle he was living, but also because, looking back on his situation, you can clearly see that his music was a call for help. In his songs, he would frequently talk about being trapped within the gang, calling it his own hell, and implying that he wanted out. Something that, upon agreeing to join, would never have been possible. His music was literally him admitting that something...
I truly believe that he wouldn't have joined the gang if he would have made the money to support his family off YouTube. And I mean, that's hard, but like, can you imagine getting 10, 20, 30 million views on YouTube and getting, what, $300 a month? I mean, damn, I make more than that, and I don't get nearly that many views, you know? But I feel like he joined the gang out of pure desperation. He didn't have money, and it sounds like life is a lot harder in Mexico. That he worked as a car mechanic and made $150 a week? I mean, that does not seem like a lot of money. You know, it's just a sad situation all the way around, honestly.
Something was wrong in his life and that he needed help, but to the millions who listened, they only thought it was art, making the channel tragic in its own way. And though this is where QBA's story ends, as he will now spend the rest of his life in prison, forever being known as a what-if in the world of hip-hop, the presence of gang and cartel violence is something that is still very apparent on the dark side of YouTube, and it has been for a very long time. Most famously, 17-year-old Juan Luis Leganes Rosales, who had become well known throughout the world of social media and specifically on YouTube, before releasing a video where he would insult the leader of the very gang that QBA had worked for.
Ooh, damn. I don't think you want to insult the leader of a gang, the
Move
cartel.
that didn't sit well. As a result, gang members would enter a bar in which the online star had been hanging out at, before opening fire, striking the teenager as many as 18 times, killing him instantly.
You run
It was
your
one
mouth?
of the more viral YouTube stories back in 2017, and tragically,
you get your mouth
it
shut.
has since come out that Juan was incredibly impaired at the time of that notorious recording, and the video itself was taken by a friend who posted it to social media without his consent.
That's
a
a
decision that
good friend.
would
What a
prove to
good
be
friend.
a tragic mistake. But as dark as this story is, it's just another in a long line of examples, as fittingly, just a few months following this event, yet another YouTuber would be targeted. El Salon TV was a Mexican YouTube
El
channel
Salon
started back on
TV.
February 9th of 2012, being run by a lady named Pamica Montenegro. Pamica would feature videos ranging from beauty tips to skits as well as vlogs, with her undeniable charisma being present in each upload.
Looks
But along with
entertaining.
these fairly standard videos, Pamica would also focus a good deal of her content around political commentary in the region of Guerrero, Mexico. She was a journalist through and through, also publishing within her own magazine, as well as across vast social media accounts. Politics were something that she took very seriously, though that might not always be obvious to outsiders who watched her videos, as she would take a very satirical approach to the topic, often playing as a character and cracking jokes, as she would share this very real information about local officials, having a specific interest in the corruption going on within the city of Acapulco. On March 3rd,
Acapulco.
2016, Pamica would upload a video covering the supposed corruption of Evito Velázquez Iguari, an established politician in the area, stating that he had governed with, quote, compadres without experience and without social commitment. Before
So
going
it
up-
really seems like in Mexico, you don't talk bad about the government and you don't talk bad about the gangs and the cartel. Keep your mouth shut if you want to live.
on to insinuate that he had multiple conflicts of interest and was clearly a corrupt man. Publishing this video would ultimately prove to be costly. According to Pamica's husband, Samuel Munizori, immediately following its upload, his wife was met with a wave of harassment and death threats. A surprising reaction
Oh,
considering that Pamica
crap.
had such a small following at the time, to this day having only garnered 2,000 subscribers, with the video itself having only 11,000 views. A number that's been heavily inflated in recent years, likely having only a few hundred at the time of the threats. Yet the harassment for even talking about the politician, even if no one was listening, was very real. Leading her
Damn.
husband to state that whatever may happen to him and Pamica, it will likely be at the hands of Evadillo Velázquez.
The government.
But truthfully, Pamica had made more enemies than just him. She had immense knowledge of the gangs that frequented that area, as well as a platform that she would often discuss the activities of these very groups, leading the rumor to be spread that she was releasing secret information about the gangs throughout her channel and her social media pages.
Yo.
Something that obviously wasn't taken kindly to. And unfortunately, well, we know where this is headed.
They killed
On
her.
February 5th,
Wow.
2018,
Oh my
Pamica
God.
would be working at a restaurant that she had owned with her husband. There, her husband would send out a social media post inviting all their friends to come in for a visit. Immediately following this, 2 armed gunmen would enter the restaurant in which Pamica was working and proceed to execute her in front of her friends and loved ones.
That is so
The men
sad.
would quickly leave the
Damn.
restaurant, never being caught to this day. No motive has ever been given to the seemingly deliberate attack on Pamica, but diving into her history, it would quickly be reported that a local gang had taken her out due to the content she was posting on YouTube, with the Jalisco cartel being tossed around as a potential perpetrator for the crime, while others, including Pamica's own husband, thought that Evadillo Velázquez, the prominent politician that Pamica had frequently criticized, had likely put a hit on her potentially reaching out to a local gang to do his dirty work in order to silence the journalist who had proven to be his biggest critic.
Insane.
With this particular theory being the most widely believed to this day. But whatever motive was and is true, it shows us the dangerous landscape that journalists in Mexico are facing even to this day, and how risky this whole YouTube channel really was, despite appearing so innocent, and despite it being so innocent, as the page was run by someone who simply had a passion for politics, and who wanted to report on the truth, despite knowing the implications that it could have. And unfortunately, it was this very drive and the love she had for this channel that would ultimately end up costing Pamika her life.
That's so sad.
You never know what you're gonna get when you explore these twisted channels that the site has to offer. Some pages telegraph devastation that's soon to come, while some come across as so inconspicuous. But regardless of how they gained their infamy, these channels will serve as relics on the site, and tragic reminders of the disturbed side of humanity
and what
and
can
dark
happen
side of YouTube.
Oh,
I want to give
man.
a massive thank you to my gold tier patrons and my god tier patrons as well. But whatever motive was and is.
Wow. So YouTube's Darkest Channels, Part 4. Oh, well guys, I know this was a long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. Very disturbing, but also very interesting as well. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, this reaction. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.